I always believed my parents would choose their granddaughter's health over my brother's whims. But that delusion died over a lukewarm pot roast. When my father casually announced they were reallocating the $5,000 promised for Lily's surgery because Dylan suddenly needed a boat for a new venture. The room went cold. I looked at my daughter, oblivious and smiling, and realized I was done being the good daughter. I had to become the wolf she actually needed. The windshield wipers of my 10-year-old sedan slapped against the glass, fighting a losing battle against the gray drizzle that seemed to permanently cloak Harbor Point in November. In the back seat, Lily was humming a song she had learned in chorus, her voice small and reed thin, oblivious to the fact that I was gripping the steering wheel tight enough to turn my knuckles white. My daughter was 8 years old. She had her father's chin and my inability to tolerate dairy, but the way she walked was entirely her own, a lurching, uneven gait caused by a congenital hip anomaly that had grown progressively worse over the last 18 months. It was not life-threatening. That was the phrase everyone used. It was not life-threatening, so I should be grateful. But watching my child sit on the sidelines during recess because running hurt too much, or seeing her rub her hip joint while watching cartoons, chipped away at my soul daily. We had just left the orthopedic surgeon's office at Harbor Point General. The news was good. Technically, Dr. Evans was ready, the hardware was ordered, the procedure that would realign her femur and give her a normal childhood was mapped out. But then came the scheduler. I could still see the woman's face, framed by a beige bob and wire-rimmed glasses, as she turned her monitor toward me. "You have a narrow window, Ms. Kelly," she had said, her finger tapping a block of dates on the screen. "Doctor, Evans is taking a sabbatical starting in January for research. If we do not get Lily in before the holidays, specifically by the second week of December, we are looking at next June at the earliest. And given the growth plate changes we discussed, waiting 6 months makes the recovery twice as hard. June, 6 months of pain, 6 months of watching her limp." I pulled the car into our driveway, the tires crunching over wet gravel. I turned off the ignition and took a breath, forcing my face into the mask of the capable, unshakable mother. "We are all set," I said, turning to smile at Lily. "Is Dr. Evans going to fix it?" she asked, clutching her stuffed rabbit. A ragged thing named Bun Bun. "He is," I promised. "We just have to get the calendar sorted." Inside our small apartment, which smelled faintly of lemon polish and damp wool, I settled Lily with her homework and went to the kitchen table. This was my command center. A stack of manila folders sat next to my laptop, each labeled with Sharpie precision. Insurance, FMLA, post-op care, bills. I opened the budget spreadsheet. I was a compliance officer for a mid-sized logistics firm. I was good at rules. I was good at foreseeable outcomes. I had saved diligently for 2 years for this surgery, putting away every spare cent, skipping vacations, and wearing clothes until they frayed. My insurance covered 80%. The remaining 20%, plus the anesthesiology deductible and the 3 weeks of unpaid leave I would need to help Lily learn to walk again, came to a terrifying number. $12,000. I had $7,000 in the bank. The remaining $5,000 was not a hope or a prayer. It was a promise. 6 months ago, my father, Don Kelly, had sat at this very table. He had placed his heavy hand over mine and looked me in the eye. "We have this covered, Audrey," he had said. "The market has been good to us. You focus on the girl. We will handle the deductible. Consider it done." My mother, Marla, had nodded in agreement, wiping a tear from her eye. "That is what family does," she had added. I had built my entire timeline around that promise. I had scheduled the time off work based on that capital. I had stopped looking for a second job because they insisted I needed to rest before the caretaking began. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from my mother. "Dinner at 6? Dad making his roast. Bring the bug." I typed back, "We will be there." I needed to confirm the transfer date. The hospital required the prepayment deposit by Friday to lock in the December slot. If I did not pay by Friday, The computer system would release the operating room to the next person on the wait list, and Lily would be pushed to June. I dressed Lily in her favorite sweater, the one with the sequined star on the chest, and we drove over to my parents' house on the wealthier side of Harbor Point. Their house was a sprawling colonial with white pillars and a driveway paved with actual brick. Not gravel. It was the house of a man who was a pillar of the community, a man who sat on boards and organized charity golf tournaments. When we walked in, the smell of rosemary and roasting meat hit me, usually a comfort. But tonight it made my stomach turn. I was anxious about the timeline. "Hey there! Sunshine!" my father boomed. Scooping Lily up, he was a large man, still broad-shouldered at 65, with silver hair swept back and a voice that filled every room. "Careful." "Dad," I said, watching Lily wince slightly as he lifted her. Her hip. "She is tough," he said, setting her down. "Are you tough?" "Lil?" "I am tough," Lily chirped, though she immediately leaned against the wall for support. My mother bustled out of the kitchen. Wiping her hands on a floral apron, she kissed my cheek, but her eyes did not meet mine. She looked past me, toward the door. "Is Dylan coming?" I asked. My brother was 32, 2 years younger than me, and lived in a perpetual state of almost success. He was charming, handsome, and entirely allergic to stability. "He is on his way," Mom said, her voice tight. "He has news." We moved to the dining room. The table was set with the good china, the gold-rimmed plates usually reserved for Thanksgiving. That was my second warning sign. The first had been my mother's inability to make eye contact. We sat. Dad carved the roast with surgical precision. Lily chattered happily about her science project, about how beans grow in wet paper towels. We ate in a strange rhythm, the adult silent, the child filling the void. "So," I said, deciding to rip the bandage off, "I saw Dr. Evans today. We have a hard deadline. I need to put the deposit down by Friday to get the December slot. If we miss it, we wait until summer." My father chewed slowly. He put his fork down. He picked up his wine glass. "Friday," he repeated. "That is soon." "It is," I said, "but it is good news. It means we get it over with before Christmas. So, if you can transfer the funds tomorrow or Thursday, I can drive the check over to the billing office." My mother cleared her throat. She picked up the water pitcher and refilled a glass that was already full. "Audrey, honey," my father started, leaning back in his chair. He put on his boardroom face, the face he used when he was explaining to a client why a shipment was late. "We need to talk about the timing of that contribution." The air left the room. "What do you mean?" I asked. "There has been a development," he said, "a reallocation of resources." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Reallocation? This is for Lily's surgery." I know," my mother interjected quickly. "And we are still going to help. Just not right this second." "Then who?" I asked, though I already knew. The front door banged open. "Sorry I'm late." The traffic on the bridge was a nightmare. Dylan breezed into the dining room, smelling of expensive cologne and the crisp autumn air. He looked great. He always looked great. He wore a leather jacket that probably cost more than my car insurance deductible. He ruffled Lily's hair and slid into the chair opposite me. "Hey, Aud," he said, flashing a grin that had gotten him out of trouble since kindergarten. "Smells good. Mom, we were just telling Audrey about the boat." Dad said. I froze. My fork hovered halfway to my mouth. "The boat?" Dylan's eyes lit up. He leaned forward, elbows on the table. "Oh, Audrey, you are going to love this. It is a 30-foot center console, twin outboards, a beauty. I have a line on it from a guy in Seabrook who is liquidating assets. He is practically giving it away." I looked from Dylan to my father. "You are buying a boat?" "We are investing in a venture," my father corrected. "It is a charter business," Dylan explained, talking fast, his hands moving, sport fishing in the summer, scenic tours in the fall. The tourism numbers in Harbor Point are up 12%. It is a gold mine, but I need the hull now to get it refitted by spring. I put my fork down. The metal clattered against the china. "So," I said, keeping my voice very low, "you are using the money for Lily's surgery to buy a boat." My mother winced. "Audrey, do not frame it like that. It is an investment. When the business takes off, we will have plenty of money for everything." I looked at my daughter. She had stopped eating. She was looking at me, sensing the shift in atmospheric pressure. "The surgery is in 3 weeks. I said to my father, I need the money by Friday. Not next summer, Friday." Dad sighed. The sound of a patient man dealing with an unreasonable child. "Audrey, look at the big picture. Dylan has a chance to build something here. He needs seed capital. If we miss this boat, the deal is gone. If I miss this deposit, Lily waits 6 months." I said. My voice was rising. I fought to clamp it down. 6 months of pain. 6 months of limping. "Oh, come on," Dylan said, taking a bite of a roll. "She is a kid. Kids are rubber. She will be fine waiting a few months. Heck, maybe she will grow out of it." I turned my head slowly to look at my brother. I felt a cold, hard stone form in the pit of my stomach. "She has hip dysplasia." "Dylan," I said, "she does not grow out of it. Her bones are grinding together. It is temporary," my mother said, pleading. "We just need to get Dylan launched. Then we can circle back to the medical stuff. Family supports family. Audrey, you are the strong one. You always figure it out." I looked at them. The tableau was perfect. The successful parents, the golden son, and me, the reliability, the bottomless resource. They were not asking me. They were telling me. They had already decided that my daughter's pain was less important than my brother's ego. "Is the boat blue?" Lily asked into the silence. Dylan beamed at her. "It is white, kiddo, but we can paint a blue stripe on it. Maybe name it after you, the lovely Lily." I stood up. "We have to go." I said, "Audrey, sit down," my father commanded. "We are having dinner." "I cannot." I said, "Lily, grab your coat." "But I'm not done," Lily said, confused. "We will get ice cream on the way home." I lied. "Come on." I ushered her away from the table. My mother stood up, wringing her hands. "Audrey, please, do not be dramatic. We are just shifting the timeline." I did not look back. I walked my daughter out of the house, past the family photos on the wall where Dylan was always front and center, past the coat rack, and out into the cold rain. "Buckle up," I said to Lily, my hands shaking so hard I dropped my keys in the wet leaves. "Mommy, are you mad at Grandpa?" Lily asked from the back seat as we pulled onto the main road. "No, sweetie," I said, my voice sounding hollow and strange. "I just remembered I have some work to finish." I drove with mechanical precision. I did not cry. I could not cry. If I cried, the car would go off the road. I had to get Lily home. I had to get her in the bath. I had to read her the story about the badger who loses his glasses. We did all those things. I was a robot. I washed her hair. I made the voices for the badger and the mole. I tucked the duvet around her chin. "Will my leg be fixed for the Christmas pageant?" she asked sleepily. "I want to be a snowflake, but snowflakes have to twirl." I kissed her forehead. "Go to sleep, bug." I closed her door until it was just a crack. Then I walked into my small living room, sank onto the floor with my back against the sofa, and put my head between my knees. The panic came then. It was a physical thing, a black wave crashing over my head. $5,000. Friday. I had savings. 7,000. The bill was 12. If I paid the deposit, I would drain my account. I would have $0 for rent next month, $0 for food, and I still would not have enough for the anesthesiologist, who required separate billing, and the time off work. I had planned for unpaid leave because I had the safety net of my savings plus their contribution. If I spent my savings on the surgery, I could not afford to take the time off to care for her. If I did not take the time off, I could not do the surgery. It was a trap, a perfect, circular trap. I pulled my phone out. I dialed the number for the hospital finance office, hoping for an automated system where I could check options. A recording played. "For billing inquiries, press 4. I pressed 4. Please note, all surgical deposits for procedures scheduled in the current calendar year must be finalized 48 hours prior to the administrative review date. I hung up. I looked at the clock. It was 9 o'clock at night. I opened my text messages. I stared at the thread with my father. The last message was, "We will be there." I typed. I deleted. I typed again. I needed to be clear. I needed to give them a chance to fix this before it became permanent. "Dad, I need you to understand the situation. The hospital will not hold the date without the funds. I do not have the liquidity to cover the gap. If we do not pay by Friday, Lily loses the surgery until June. Please tell me you have the $5,000. I do not care about the boat. I care about your granddaughter walking without pain." I hit send. I sat in the dark, watching the little gray bubbles. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Finally, a notification, an audio message. I pressed play, holding the phone up to my ear. My father's voice filled the quiet room. It was thick, probably from the wine, but steady. "Audrey, you are twisting this into something it is not. Dylan needs this. It is a one-time opportunity. You are smart. You can float the difference on a credit card or work something out with the billing department. Do not put this on us. We have done enough. Let's not make this ugly." The message ended. I sat there for a long time. The silence in the apartment was heavy. Let's not make this ugly. He thought ugly was a woman asking for a promise to be kept. He thought ugly was inconvenient math. He had no idea what ugly was. I looked at the closed door of my daughter's bedroom. I looked at the folders on the table. I stood up. My legs felt steady now. The panic was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. If they wanted to prioritize a boat over a child, they were free to do so, but they did not get to keep the title of loving grandparents while doing it. They did not get to be the heroes of the story anymore. I walked to the kitchen and opened the laptop. I did not go to the bank website. I went to the hospital patient portal. I messaged the finance department. Subject: Urgent payment inquiry. Message: I need to discuss an emergency payment plan for the Kelly surgery. I will be there at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. I closed the laptop. I was not going to sleep tonight. I was going to pull every document I had. I was going to find every penny I could leverage. Dylan wanted a boat. Dad wanted a legacy. Mom wanted peace. I just wanted my daughter to walk. And God help anyone who stood in my way. The fluorescent lights in the basement office of Harbor Point General hummed with a sound that felt like a drill pressing directly into my temple. I sat in a chair upholstered in scratchy blue fabric, clutching a travel mug of lukewarm coffee with both hands, as if it were an anchor keeping me from floating away. Across the desk sat Mara Jensen. She was a woman who looked like she had heard every sob story in the state of Massachusetts and had decided long ago that empathy was inefficient compared to arithmetic. She wore a charcoal blazer, and her reading glasses hung from a beaded chain around her neck. Her fingers moved across a keyboard with terrifying speed. The clacking sound the only conversation filler while she reviewed my file. She stopped typing and spun her monitor around. "Here's the reality. Ms. Kelly," Mara said, her voice dry and crisp. "Your insurance covers the procedure, minus the deductible and the 20% co-insurance. The facility fee is separate. The anesthesiology group bills separately. The hardware, the actual screws and plates going into your daughter's hip, is billed as a line item." I nodded, feeling the tightness in my throat. I knew this. I had spreadsheets for this. "I have $7,000. I said, "I can pay that today." Mara looked at the screen, then back at me. "That covers the facility deposit and the initial surgeon's fee. It does not cover the projected hospital stay or the post-op rehabilitation equipment. We require the full estimated patient responsibility to be secured 48 hours before admission. The gap is $5,400. I swallowed. That was the number. The boat money. "I am expecting a family contribution." I said, "It was delayed. I just need a few days." Mara took her glasses off and let them hang against her chest. She looked at me, not unkindly, but with a level of directness that made me want to shrink. "Ms. Kelly, The scheduling department operates on a queue if the funds are not cleared or a payment plan is not countersigned by Friday. The block time is released. We have 3 other pediatric orthopedic cases waiting for that December slot. I know. I said, I am asking for options. Mara pulled a folder from a drawer and opened it. She laid out 3 sheets of paper. Option 1, she said, pointing to the first sheet. You apply for a high-interest medical credit line. Approvals are instant, but the APR is nearly 25%. Option 2. You apply for charity care or a sliding scale reduction. Based on your income at Bayshore compliance, you are right on the bubble. You might qualify for a partial reduction, but the review committee meets on Tuesdays. You would miss the Friday deadline. What is option 3? I asked. Option 3 is a bridge agreement, she said. It is an internal hospital program for patients with verified incoming funds. If you can document that the money is guaranteed, an inheritance disbursement, a settlement, or a notarized gift letter, we can accept that documentation in lieu of cash for 30 days. It buys you the scheduling window. Hope flared in my chest. A bridge. That was what I needed. I can do that. I said, my father. He promised the money. It was a gift. Mara slid a form toward me. It looked like a tax document. I need proof of the pledge, she said. A text message does not count. A voicemail does not count. I need a signed letter of intent or a bank statement showing the funds are segregated for this purpose. If it is a family gift, there is usually a gift letter for tax purposes. Do you have that? I froze. 6 months ago, when my father first made the promise, he had made a big show of writing a letter. He had sat in his study, drinking scotch, and typed it out on his heavy bond stationery. To my granddaughter, for her future steps, he had typed, he had waved it in the air. Talking about tax write-offs and legacy. I have it. I lied. Or rather, I hoped I had it. He has it. I can get a copy. Get it to me by tomorrow at noon, Mara said, closing the folder. If I have a signed letter stating the funds are committed to you, I can override the system and lock the surgery date. But Audrey? I looked up at her. Make sure the dates are current, she said. And make sure it is signed. The compliance office checks everything. I walked out of the hospital into the gray drizzle, my mind racing. I did not have the letter. I had never actually taken possession of it. Dad had kept it in his file cabinet, saying he needed it for his accountant. I got into my car and sat for a moment, watching the rain blur the world. I needed that piece of paper. It was just a piece of paper. He had delayed the money, but surely he would not deny the existence of the promise itself. That would be a level of cruelty I could not imagine. Even after the dinner, I pulled out my phone and texted Don. Dad, I am at the hospital. I found a way to keep the surgery date without the cash immediately. I just need a photo of that gift letter you wrote back in May. The one for the tax records. If I show them that, they will accept it as a bridge. I waited. I started the car and began the drive to work. The wipers beat a rhythmic tattoo against the glass. Thump, swoosh. Thump, swoosh. My phone pinged. I pulled over into a gas station parking lot to check it. It was a photo. I opened it, squinting at the screen. It was a picture of a document. Yes, I recognized the heavy cream paper. I recognized my father's jagged signature at the bottom, but the photo was terrible. It was blurry, taken in bad lighting, and the top half of the page, the header with the date and the addressee, was cut off by the frame of the picture. I typed back, Dad, I cannot use this. The header is cut off. I need to see the date and your letterhead. Can you retake it? Or just scan it? 3 minutes later, a reply. I am at the club. That is the only pic I have on my phone. The original is with the accountant in Boston. Cannot get it today. Use that. I stared at the screen. He was lying. My father did not keep originals with his accountant. He kept copies. He was a control freak about his files. And he was not at the club. It was Tuesday morning. He had a standing meeting with his broker on Tuesdays. Why would he hide the header? A cold prickle of unease started at the base of my neck. I looked at the blurry photo again. The body of the text was legible enough. sum of $5,000 to assist with medical necessities. But without the date, it was worthless to Mara, and without the addressee, it could be for anyone. I drove the rest of the way to Bayshore Compliance Group in a fog of suspicion. My office was a cubicle in a glass-walled building that smelled of carpet cleaner and ambition. I was a mid-level compliance officer, which meant I spent my days ensuring trucking companies did not violate interstate commerce laws. It was dry, exacting work, and I was good at it because I liked rules. Rules made sense. People did not. I had barely sat down when Mr. Henderson, my department head, stopped by. He was a man who communicated primarily in buzzwords and passive-aggressive sighs. "Audrey," he said, leaning against my partition, "we need to finalize the Q4 audit schedule." "I am working on it," I said, booting up my computer. "And," he added, lowering his voice slightly, "I wanted to touch base on your time-off request. December is a blackout period for the finance team." I stopped typing. "I submitted that request 3 months ago. Mr. Henderson, it is FMLA. It is federal law." I know, he said, holding up his hands. "We are not denying it, but we need to be precise about the dates. If you are taking the full 3 weeks, we need to bring in a temp, and if the surgery date moves—" "It is not moving," I said, my voice harder than I intended. "The date is locked." "Good," he said. "Just keep us in the loop. We need certainty." "Audrey, clients expect reliability." Certainty. Everyone wanted certainty from me, the hospital, my boss, my daughter. And yet, the people who were supposed to provide the foundation of that certainty were currently ghosting me over a fishing boat. I spent the morning auditing logbooks, but my brain was elsewhere. At lunch, I sat in the break room, staring at a Tupperware container of pasta I could not bring myself to eat. My phone buzzed. It was Kara Mills. Kara was my neighbor, my emergency contact, and the only person in Harbor Point who knew how much wine I actually drank. She was a hurricane of chaotic good energy, a woman who baked sourdough for the mailman and fought with the HOA about her compost bin. "Hey." Her text read, "I saw you leave early this morning. You looked like you were going to war. What is the status?" I called her. I needed to hear a human voice that did not want money or paperwork from me. "It is a mess, Kara," I said, keeping my voice low so the break room would not hear. "My parents are stonewalling. The hospital gave me a 48-hour deadline. I need a document Dad will not send. I am starting the fundraiser." Kara said immediately. "No." I said, "Kara, please, no. Audrey, get over yourself." She said, "I have drafted the post. I am not using Lily's real name. I am calling it Community Support for a Local Family. We can raise $5,000 in 24 hours. People love a cause. I do not want her to be a cause." I hissed. "I do not want the moms at school whispering that I cannot pay my bills. Lily is already self-conscious about her limp. If she finds out people are donating money so she can get fixed, it will crush her. She is 8. Kara. She understands shame. It is not shame. It is village." Kara argued. "It feels like shame." I said, "Please, give me until tomorrow. I'm going to get the money. I just need to corner my father." Kara sighed. "Fine. 24 hours? Then I'm posting it. And you can be mad at me later when Lily is running cross-country." I hung up, feeling a mix of gratitude and nausea. At 3 o'clock, my phone rang again. It was Dylan. I let it ring twice before answering. I was still angry about the dinner, about the casual way he had dismissed Lily's pain. "What do you want?" "Dylan?" I asked, answering on my headset while I typed. "Hey, sis," he said. His voice was smooth, rehearsed, the tone he used when he was trying to borrow his way out of a jam. "Look, I feel bad about last night. Dad told me you are stressed. I am not stressed. Dylan, I am backed into a corner. I know, he said. "Listen, I am going to make this right. As soon as the boat deal closes, I am flipping the first few charters. I will cut you a check for the $5,000 plus interest. Seriously, you just have to float it for a few weeks." "I do not have a few weeks," I said, "and I do not have the money to float." He paused. There was a weird silence on the line. Then he spoke, his voice dropping a register. Well, look, the deal is moving fast. My partner, this guy out of Boston, Silent Money, he is really high on the concept. He just needs to get the asset secured. Actually, that is why I called. He might need some paperwork from you. I stopped typing. From me? I asked. Why would your partner need paperwork from me? I am not involved in the boat. Dylan laughed. A nervous, jagged sound. No, not involved. Just reference stuff. Family character verification. You know how these lenders are. They want to know the borrower comes from good stock. Since you have the steady job and the credit score, he just wanted to run a file. I froze. My blood ran cold. Run a file? I repeated. Dylan, what exactly does run a file mean? Did you give him my social security number? No way, he said, too quickly. Just general stuff. Don't worry about it. I handled it. I just wanted to give you a heads up in case someone calls to verify employment or something. It is just a formality. Who is the partner? I asked. What is his name? It is a holding company, Dylan said. Look, I have to go. The broker is waving at me. I love you. Odd. We will fix Lily's leg. I promise. The line went dead. I sat in my cubicle, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Family character verification. That was not a thing. Lenders did not check the credit worthiness of a sister for a brother's boat loan unless the sister was a co-signer. I looked at the clock. It was 4:30. I logged off my computer. I am leaving early. I told Mr. Henderson as I passed his office, I have a family emergency. I did not wait for his permission. I drove straight to my parents' house. The rain had stopped, leaving the world slick and black. The streetlights were just flickering on. I pulled into the brick driveway behind my father's Lincoln. My mother's car was there too. I marched up the steps and rang the bell. I did not use my key. This was not a visit. It was an investigation. My mother opened the door. She was wearing a cashmere cardigan and holding a glass of white wine. When she saw me, her face tightened. Audrey, she said, not stepping back to let me in. We were just sitting down to relax. Dad is tired. I need to see him. Mom, I said, trying to step past her. She moved to block me. It was a physical shifting of weight, shocking in its aggression. My mother, who usually avoided all conflict, was standing like a sentry. No, she said. He has had a long day. The market was down, and he is dealing with the Giving Circle board. He cannot take your yelling tonight. I am not going to yell. I said, my voice shaking, I need the original gift letter, and I need to ask him what Dylan is doing with my name. Audrey, stop it, she hissed. Her eyes filled with tears, but they were angry tears. You are attacking the family. You are looking for villains where there are none. Dylan is trying to build a future. Your father is trying to maintain our standing in this community so we can help you. And you just come here with your hand out and your accusations. My hand out? I whispered. Mom, it is for Lily. It is always something, she cried. First the divorce, now the hip. Next it will be braces. We help you. Audrey, we always help. But you have to stop pushing. You are upsetting your father. He is under stress. She started to close the door. Go home. Audrey, she said through the crack. We will talk when you are calm. The heavy oak door clicked shut. I heard the deadbolt slide home. I stood on the porch of the house I grew up in, locked out. I walked back to my car. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. Attacking the family. The gaslighting was breathtaking. I was the one scrambling to pay a surgeon. I was the one working 50 hours a week, and I was the attacker because I asked for a piece of paper they had promised me. I drove home. I picked up Lily from the after-school program. I made her dinner, macaroni and cheese, her favorite. I helped her with her math homework. I read her 2 chapters of The Secret Garden. I was a mother. I functioned. But once she was asleep, I went to the kitchen table and opened my laptop. I did not go to the hospital portal this time. I went to the annual credit report website. I had not checked my credit in a year. I had an 810 score. I paid my bills on time. I was boring. I answered the security questions. Which of these streets have you lived on? What is the manufacturer of your 2018 vehicle? The report generated. I scrolled past the student loans, paid off, the car loan, current, the Visa card, low balance. I got to the section labeled Inquiries. There were the standard ones, the soft pull from my insurance company, the check from the utility company when I moved 2 years ago, and there, at the very bottom, dated 3 days ago, hard inquiry, Harbor Point Community Bank / Marine Lending Division. I stared at the line of text. A hard inquiry meant an application for credit. It meant someone had filled out a form with my name, my address, my social security number, and my income, and submitted it to a bank to ask for money. Dylan had not just run a file, he had applied for the loan in my name, or at least, he had tried to add me to it. I felt a wave of nausea so strong I had to put my head between my knees to keep from fainting. My own brother, my own parents, they knew. Dad had to know. That was why he would not give me the gift letter. He did not want me looking at financials. That was why Mom blocked the door. They were stalling until the loan went through. They were stealing my credit to buy a boat, knowing it would destroy my ability to pay for Lily's surgery. If that loan appeared on my debt-to-income ratio, no bridge loan, no payment plan, nothing would be approved. I grabbed my phone. It was 11 o'clock at night. I did not care. I dialed my father's cell number. He answered on the third ring. His voice was groggy. "Audrey? Is everything okay? Is it Lily?" I did not say hello. "I am looking at my credit report." "Dad?" I said. My voice was ice. "There is a hard inquiry from Harbor Point Community Bank for a marine loan." Silence. The silence stretched for 5 seconds, long enough to be a confession. "Dad," I said, "did you authorize Dylan to use my name on the boat loan?" He cleared his throat. I heard the rustle of sheets. "Audrey, listen," he said, "it is not what you think. The bank just needed a guarantor to secure the lower interest rate. It is just on paper. Dylan is making the payments. It does not affect you." "It affects me!" I screamed, losing control for the first time. "It is fraud. Dad, it is identity theft. And it destroys my debt ratio. I cannot get the bridge loan for Lily if I have a $100,000 boat anchor around my neck." "Audrey, lower your voice," he snapped. "You are being hysterical." We did what we had to do to secure the asset. The boat is the priority right now because the deal was expiring. We are going to pay for the surgery out of the profits. You just have to trust us. "Trust you?" I laughed. A harsh, broken sound. "You stole my identity. We borrowed your credit," he shouted back. "For the family. After everything we have done for you, we paid for your wedding. We helped you with the down payment on the condo. And now, when your brother needs a hand, you call it fraud? The pivot, the classic Kelly pivot. I was the victim. So they made me the ungrateful villain. Remove me." I said, "Remove me from the application tomorrow morning. It is already in underwriting." He said, "We cannot pull it now or the whole deal collapses. Just sit tight. It will be fine." I am not sitting tight. "Dad, Audrey, if you torpedo this deal, you are hurting your brother. Do not be selfish." Selfish. I looked at the closed door of my daughter's room. I thought about her wincing when she walked. I thought about the scheduler at the hospital. I hung up the phone. I sat in the dark kitchen. The hum of the refrigerator, the only sound. I was alone. My family was not just useless. They were actively cannibalizing me. I looked at the credit report again. I wiped my face. I took a deep breath. "Okay," I whispered to the empty room. "If they wanted to use the law to screw me, I would use the law to bury them." I opened a new tab on my browser. I searched for Consumer Protection Attorneys Harbor Point. I was done being the daughter. I was done being the sister. Tomorrow, I was becoming a plaintiff. The offices of Park and Lyle Legal Clinic were located above a dry cleaner on 4th Street, a few blocks away from the manicured lawns of the district where my parents lived. The waiting room smelled faintly of steam and starch from downstairs, mixed with the dusty scent of old law books. It was not the kind of firm my father used. He retained a high-rise firm in Boston with glass walls and espresso machines. This was a place for people who had problems they could not afford to have. Ellen Park was younger than I expected, perhaps in her late 30s, with a sharp bob cut and eyes that seemed to assess the structural integrity of my story before I had even finished speaking. She sat behind a desk cluttered with files, listening as I laid out the timeline, the surgery, the promised money, the boat, the sudden withdrawal of support, and finally, the unauthorized inquiry on my credit report. "So, let me be clear," Ellen said, leaning forward and clasping her hands. "You did not sign any application. You did not verbally authorize a credit pull, and you have no financial interest in this marine vessel." "None," I said. "I do not even fish." Ellen picked up the printout of my credit report I had brought. She traced the line at the bottom with a red pen. "Harbor Point Community Bank." She read, "Marine Lending Division." A hard pull means an application was submitted. To submit an application, they need a social security number, a date of birth, and a signature. If you did not provide the signature, someone else did. My stomach churned. Hearing a stranger say it made it real. It was no longer a family squabble. It was a felony. "What do I do?" I asked. "If I report it as fraud, my father, he could be in trouble." Ellen took off her glasses and looked at me with a weary kind of sympathy. "Audrey," she said, using my first name for the first time. "I see this often. Family financial abuse is insidious because it relies on the victim's silence. You are protecting them, but they are not protecting you. In fact, they are actively cannibalizing your financial future to fund a luxury item. If this loan goes through and you are listed as a co-borrower or guarantor, that debt becomes yours. If they default, the bank comes for your wages. And more importantly for your immediate situation, that debt-to-income ratio will likely disqualify you from any hospital financing programs." I felt the blood drain from my face. The bridge loan, the payment plan, all of it depended on my credit being clean. "I need that surgery," I whispered. "Then you need to stop acting like a daughter and start acting like a creditor," Ellen said. Her voice was steel. "You need to document everything, every text, every email, and you need to find out exactly what was submitted to that bank." She slid a notepad toward me. "I want you to send a formal request to your father," she instructed. "Do not make it emotional. Make it bureaucratic. Ask for the loan documents. Tell him you need them for the hospital financial review. See if he hands them over. If he refuses, we move to the next step." I left her office 40 minutes later with a headache that throbbed behind my eyes, but also with a strange, cold sense of purpose. I was no longer flailing in the dark. I had a map. I sat in my car and typed the text to my father before I could lose my nerve. "Dad, I am finalizing my application for the Hospital Financial Assistance Program. The counselor sees the inquiry from Harbor Point Bank and needs to see the corresponding loan documents to verify my liability. Please email me the full loan packet regarding the boat immediately so I can clear this up and schedule Lily's surgery." It was a lie, but only a partial one. I needed the documents to save myself, not to help the hospital. The response came an hour later, while I was sitting at my desk at work, pretending to audit a trucking log. "Audrey, that is private business information. The deal is still in sensitivity stages. I cannot just email PDFs around. Tell the hospital it is a pending investment and leave it at that. We will handle the liability, private, my name, my credit history, my social security number, but his privacy." I stared at the screen, the rage finally beginning to eclipse the hurt. He was stonewalling me. He knew that if I saw the papers, I would see the forgery. I closed my phone and went back to work, but my hands were shaking. That evening, I pulled into my driveway and saw Kara Mills standing on my front porch. She was holding a casserole dish wrapped in aluminum foil and a bottle of wine. "Do not yell at me," she said as I got out of the car. "I am too tired to yell," I said, unlocking the front door. "Come in." Kara set the dish on the kitchen counter. "It is lasagna," she announced, "and this is a Pinot Noir that costs more than $12. So you know I am serious. I sank onto a kitchen stool and rubbed my face. Kara, what did you do? I launched the meal train, she said. I groaned, burying my face in my hands. Kara, I told you. Listen to me, she interrupted, pouring 2 glasses of wine. I did not write a sob story. I did not say, poor Audrey is broke. I wrote, Audrey Kelly is a single mom who shows up for everyone in this neighborhood. She is about to go into a heavy medical season with Lily and will need to save her PTO for recovery. Let us cover dinner in a few shifts so she can focus on her girl. I looked up. That was better than I expected. And Audrey? Kara said, her voice softening. Look at the list. She handed me her phone. I scrolled through the page. The Hendersons. Lasagna. Tuesday. Mrs. Gable, the crossing guard. Pot roast. Wednesday. The oblivious guy from 3B. Pizza gift card. Sarah from PTA. $50 donation for coffee. There were 30 names. People I waved to. People I held doors for. People who did not know my parents or my brother's boat or the mess of my credit report. They just knew my daughter limped and I looked tired. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Hot and painful. They do not think I am a charity case? I asked, my voice cracking. They think you are a neighbor, Kara said gently. Let them help. You are fighting a war on 2 fronts. You need supplies. I nodded, unable to speak. I took the glass of wine, for the first time in a week. I did not feel entirely alone in the trench. The next morning, the war escalated. I was in the middle of a meeting with the safety compliance team when my cell phone buzzed. It was a local number I recognized, Harbor Point General. I excused myself and stepped into the hallway, pressing the phone to my ear. This is Audrey, I said. Ms. Kelly, this is Sarah from Dr. Evans's scheduling team, the voice said. She sounded apologetic but firm. I am calling because we have had a cancellation for December 12th. It is the last slot available before Dr. Evans goes on sabbatical. The finance department says your file is still pending. My heart hammered against my ribs. December 12th. That was it. The golden ticket. I am working on it. I said, I am securing the bridge funding now. Okay, Sarah said. But I have to be honest with you. I have a wait list of 5 other families. I can hold this slot for 48 hours. If we do not have financial clearance by Thursday at 5 o'clock. The system automatically releases it to the next patient. Thursday, 2 days. I understand, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the fact that the walls seemed to be closing in. I will have it sorted. Do not release the date. I hung up and leaned against the cold wall of the corridor. Thursday. I needed $5,000 or a signed gift letter that was legible, or I needed to clear the fraud alert so I could apply for a legitimate loan. I went back into the meeting, but I did not hear a word anyone said. I was running calculations. That night, the doorbell rang at 7 o'clock. I looked through the peephole. It was Dylan. He was holding 2 large brown bags that smelled of grease and spices. Thai food. Our tradition from when we were kids and Mom and Dad went to galas. I opened the door. Peace offering? He said, flashing that boyish grin that usually worked on everyone. I got the pad thai with the extra peanuts. I stepped back to let him in. I was not going to eat his food, but I needed to talk to him. I needed to see his face when I asked the hard questions. Lily was in her room, watching a movie on her tablet. I closed the living room door so we could talk without her hearing. Dylan set the food on the coffee table and started unpacking cartons. Look, odd, he started, not looking at me. I know you are mad, and you have a right to be. The dinner was not great. Dad can be a bulldozer. And you? I asked, standing with my arms crossed. Are you a bulldozer too? He paused, a container of rice in his hand. I'm just a guy trying to catch a break. This charter business is real. It is not one of my schemes. The numbers work. The numbers work because you are using my credit to make them work, I said. Dylan sighed and sat on the sofa, patting the spot next to him. I did not sit. It is not like that, he said. You are making it sound criminal. It is family leverage. Dad and I talked about it. We figured, why pay the bank the high rate when we can bundle the family assets and get the prime rate? It saves us money in the long run, money that can go to you. You submitted an application in my name. Dylan, that is not leverage. That is lying. He took a bite of an egg roll. Chewing thoughtfully, he looked relaxed. Too relaxed. It was just a draft, he said. A placeholder. We have not even signed the final papers yet. My partner, the guy from Boston, he just needed to show the bank we had backing. Who is this partner? I asked. Just a guy, Dylan said, waving his fork. Investor type. Connected to Dad's foundation friends. You know how they are. They love paperwork. They said, get your sister's signature on the intent form and we are golden. The room went very quiet. I stared at him. My signature? I asked softly. Dylan froze. He realized he had slipped. He blinked, the charm faltering for a microsecond. I mean, not your actual signature, he stammered. I meant your sign-off, like verbal. No, I said, stepping closer. You said signature. You said they needed my signature on the intent form. Did you sign my name? Dylan? He stood up, looking annoyed now. The mask of the loving brother dropped, revealing the petulant child beneath. You are obsessed with this, he snapped. No one signed your name. You are hearing things because you are stressed out about Lily. I am trying to help you. Audrey, I am trying to build a business that will pay for 10 surgeries, and you are nitpicking over administrative details. Administrative details, I repeated. My credit score is not a detail. It is my life. It is Lily's surgery. The surgery can wait, he shouted. The sound of his voice, loud, dismissive, entitled, echoed in the small apartment. I looked at him. Really looked at him. I saw the expensive leather jacket. I saw the watch our father had given him for his 30th birthday. I saw a man who had never been told no in his entire life. Standing in the living room of a sister who had never been told yes, get out, I said, Audrey, come on. I brought food. Get out. Dylan, take your noodles and get out of my house. He glared at me, jaw tight. Then he grabbed his keys. You are making a mistake, he said, pointing a finger at me. You are pushing Dad too far. He is trying to protect you, but you are making it impossible. Protect me? I laughed. He is robbing me. Dylan slammed the door behind him. I stood there, shaking. They needed your signature. He had signed it. I knew it in my bones. He had forged my signature on a loan application to buy a boat, and my father had blessed it. I did not eat the Thai food. I threw it in the trash, carton by carton. The next morning, I took a personal hour from work. I did not go to the hospital. I went to Harbor Point Community Bank. It was a small branch, with faux marble counters and a pot of stale coffee in the lobby. I walked up to the customer service desk. Can I help you? The teller asked. I need to speak to a loan officer. I said, my name is Audrey Kelly. I have a hard inquiry on my credit report from this branch, and I did not apply for a loan. I need to know who did. The teller's eyes widened slightly. She typed something into her computer. One moment, she said. She disappeared into a back office. A few minutes later, a man in a beige suit came out. He looked nervous. Ms. Kelly? I am Mr. Henderson. No relation to your boss, I assume? He gave a weak chuckle. I am the branch manager. I want to see the application. I said, Mr. Henderson clasped his hands. Mrs. Kelly, I cannot show you a pending application without the primary applicant's consent. Due to privacy regulations, I am the applicant, I said, my voice rising. If my name is on it, I am the applicant. You are listed as a co-applicant, he corrected. But the file was initiated by a Mr. Dylan Kelly and a Mr. Don Kelly until the loan is funded or denied. The work product belongs to the bank and the primary initiator. I took a deep breath. I needed to be smart, not loud. Okay, I said. Can you confirm that a signature page was submitted with my name on it? Mr. Henderson hesitated. He looked at his shoes. He looked at the security guard. There is documentation on file, he said carefully. It came through one of our local lending channels. A direct submission. From whom? I asked. I cannot say more. He said, But Ms. Kelly? If you believe this is an error, you should file a police report. That compels us to release the file. He was giving me the answer. He was telling me, without telling me, that it was real. Thank you. I said. I walked out of the bank. The sun was shining, a cruel, bright light that made everything look sharp and hard. I drove straight to Ellen Park's office. I did not have an appointment, but her receptionist saw my face and waved me back. They submitted it. I told Ellen. Standing in her doorway, Dylan slipped up and admitted they needed a signature. The bank manager confirmed there is documentation on file with my name. Ellen nodded. She did not look surprised. She opened her laptop. Then we fire the warning shot, she said. We spent the next hour drafting the letter. It was not a polite request for information. It was a legal grenade. Notice of potential identity theft and demand for disclosure. To Donald Kelly and Dylan Kelly. This office represents Audrey Kelly. It has come to our attention that an unauthorized application for credit was submitted to Harbor Point Community Bank listing our client as a co-borrower. Ms. Kelly did not authorize this application, nor did she sign any documents related to a marine vessel purchase. We demand the immediate withdrawal of this application and the provision of all fraudulent documents submitted in her name within 24 hours. Failure to comply will result in the filing of a formal police report for identity theft and a civil suit for damages. Govern yourselves accordingly. Ellen printed it out on heavy bond paper. She handed me the pen. I signed my name, my real signature, the one that belonged to me. We are mailing this certified, Ellen said. Return receipt requested. That means they have to sign for it. They cannot pretend they did not get it. I took the envelope to the post office myself. I stood in line behind a woman mailing a care package to her son in college. She looked happy. Normal. When it was my turn, I slapped the envelope onto the counter. Certified. I said to the clerk, I need to know exactly when they touch it. I walked out of the post office feeling lightheaded. I had just threatened to arrest my father and brother. There was no going back now. The bridge was not just burned. I had dynamited the foundations. I went home. I made dinner for Lily. We played Go Fish. I lost, because I could not concentrate on the cards. At 10 o'clock, after Lily was asleep, my phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen. Mom. I almost did not answer, but a part of me, the little girl who wanted her mommy, pressed the green button. Hello? I said. Audrey, Mom said. Her voice was soft, thick with emotion. Maybe wine. Maybe tears. Probably both. Hi. Mom. I was just looking at old photo albums. She said, Do you remember that trip we took to the Cape when you were 10? You and Dylan built that huge sandcastle. You worked on it all day. You were such a good team. I closed my eyes. Mom, I am not 10. And Dylan is not building a sandcastle. He is building a lie. Audrey, please, she said. Her voice cracked. I know you are angry, and I know Dad can be difficult. He is stubborn. But he loves you. If he loves me, why is he stealing from me? I asked. Why is he jeopardizing Lily's surgery? He is not trying to, she insisted. He is under so much pressure. Audrey, the Giving Circle is honoring him next week. Everyone is looking at him. If this boat deal falls through, if there is a scandal, it would ruin his standing. He has worked 40 years for this reputation. I gripped the phone tight. His standing. I repeated, Yes, she said. You have to understand. In this town, perception is everything. If you start sending legal letters, if you file police reports, people will talk. It will humiliate him. What about Lily? I asked. My voice was very quiet. What? Lily, I said. Your granddaughter, the one who cries at night because her hip hurts. What about her standing? What about her future? Lily is resilient. My mother said, She is strong. She can wait a few months. But your father? This award means everything to him. Please, Audrey. For the family. Stop the legal stuff. Just let him fix it in his own time. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. It was hot and salty. I realized then that my mother was not a victim. She was not a helpless bystander. She was the gatekeeper. She was the one who decided whose pain mattered, and she had decided, once again, that my father's ego was more important than my daughter's bones. She was choosing a plaque on a wall over a child. Mom, I said, yes. Honey, I sent the letter today. Silence. Cold. Shocked silence. You? What? I sent a certified letter demanding they withdraw the fraud. If they do not do it by tomorrow, I am going to the police. Audrey, you cannot, she shrieked. You will destroy us. No, Mom, I said, you destroyed us. I am just surviving the wreckage. I hung up the phone. I turned it off. I sat in the dark living room, listening to the wind rattle the windows. I had no parents. I had no brother. I had a daughter. I had a deadline. And I had a lawyer. It would have to be enough. Wednesday broke with a sky the color of a bruised peach. The kind of dawn that promised rain but delivered only a damp, chilling wind. I sat at my kitchen table, the wood grain cold under my forearms, and looked at the 3 columns I had drawn on a legal pad. Column A, the fundraiser, Kara's meal train, and community support page. Current total, $1,200. It was moving, but it was not enough. Column B, the personal loan. I had applied online at 2 a.m. for a high-interest personal loan from a lender that advertised during daytime court TV shows. $3,000. The interest rate was 22%. It was predatory. It was dangerous. And I did not care. If the fraud alert on my credit report did not trigger an automatic rejection, the money could be in my account by Friday morning. Column C, the hospital. Still pending. I drew a heavy circle around the bottom of the page where I had written, total gap, $1,800. I could close that gap. If the personal loan came through, and if Kara's neighbors kept donating $20 here and there, I could make the deposit. I would be broke. I would be eating ramen for 6 months. But Lily would be on that operating table on December 12th. I was not going to miss the window. I was done waiting for my father to be the hero. I was the hero now, or at least, I was the mechanic keeping the engine running. I dressed for work with armor-like precision. Navy blazer, white blouse buttoned to the collar. I applied mascara carefully, hiding the purple shadows under my eyes that 3 nights of insomnia had painted there. When I walked into Bay Shore Compliance Group, I kept my head high. I said good morning to the receptionist. I poured my coffee. I sat at my desk and opened the trucking logs. At 10:15, the internal chat system pinged. Linda Ruiz, HR. Audrey, can you come to my office? Now, please. My stomach dropped. Linda never messaged me. We saw each other at the holiday party and the annual benefits enrollment meeting. That was it. I walked down the long, gray-carpeted hallway. The hum of the HVAC system seemed deafening. Linda's office was small and smelled of peppermint tea. She did not smile when I entered. She gestured to the chair opposite her desk. Close the door, please, she said. I sat down. My hands were sweating. Audrey, Linda started, looking at a printout on her desk. We received an anonymous complaint this morning via the ethics hotline. It concerns a violation of the company's non-solicitation policy. I blinked. Non-solicitation? The complaint alleges that you are soliciting financial donations from Bayshore clients for personal matters. She said. She slid the paper across the desk. It was a screenshot. It was Kara's fundraiser page. Support for the Kelly Family Medical Fund. But below the photo of the generic teddy bear Kara had used, there was a comment thread. And in the thread, someone had tagged the official Facebook page of 3 of our largest trucking clients. Hey, at Red Route Logistics and at Harbor Freight. Maybe check on your compliance officer. Seems she is begging for cash online instead of managing your logs. I stared at the paper, the world tilted on its axis. I did not do this. I said, my voice shaking. I did not tag them. I did not send this to anyone. My neighbor started this for me. It is for my daughter's surgery. Linda sighed. She looked sympathetic, but she was HR. Her job was to protect the company, not me. Audrey, it is a public link, and it is being circulated in forums where our clients are active. It looks unprofessional. It looks like you are leveraging your position to ask for money. We have strict rules about conflicts of interest and gratuities. I am not asking clients for money, I said, fighting back tears of sheer panic. I am trying to pay for a hip reconstruction for an 8-year-old. Someone is trolling me. You need to get it taken down, Linda said firmly. And you need to issue a statement to me clarifying that you have received no funds from any Bayshore vendors. If this continues, we will have to place you on administrative leave pending an investigation. Administrative leave, unpaid, if I lost my paycheck. I lost the surgery. I lost the apartment. I lost everything. I will handle it, I whispered. I walked back to my desk, gathered my purse, and walked out. I did not ask for permission. I was vibrating with a rage so hot it felt like a fever. I got into my car and called Kara. Take it down. I said, What? Why? We are almost at 1,500. Take it down. Kara, someone tagged my clients. HR just threatened to fire me. Kara gasped. Who would do that? Who even knows who your clients are? I knew. I hung up and opened the screenshot I had taken of the post before Linda took the paper back. The user who had tagged the clients was named MarineLife_88. I tapped on the profile. It was locked. But the profile picture was a generic photo of a center console boat. The bio read, Living the Salt Life, Harbor Point. I knew that handle. I had seen it commenting on Dylan's Instagram posts. It was one of his drinking buddies, a guy named Kyle who hung out at the marina and thought Dylan was a genius. Dylan had complained about the fundraiser. He had probably made a joke about it over beers. My sister is embarrassing the family, begging for scraps, and his friends, loyal sycophants that they were, had decided to help him by nuking it. They were trying to sabotage my stability because my poverty made them look bad. If I was desperate, I was an embarrassment. If I was fired, I was a failure. And if I was a failure, their narrative, that they were the successful ones helping the charity case, remained intact. I drove to the marina. I knew Dylan would be there. He was overseeing the refit of the boat he did not own yet. I found him standing on the dock, wearing polarized sunglasses and holding a clipboard, looking every inch the maritime entrepreneur. He was laughing with a mechanic. I walked down the gangway, the metal rattling under my heels. Dylan, I shouted. He turned. When he saw me, his smile faltered, then fixed itself into a mask of weary patience. Audrey, he said, not here. I am working. You tried to get me fired, I said, stopping 3 feet from him. I could smell the salt water and the diesel fuel. What are you talking about? Your friend Kyle? MarineLife_88. He tagged my clients in the fundraiser post. He tried to get me brought up on ethics charges at Bayshore. Dylan rolled his eyes. Kyle is an idiot. I cannot control what he does on the internet. You told him, I said. You complained about the fundraiser. You told him to mess with it. I told him it was pathetic. Dylan snapped. Because it is. You are begging for grocery money online. Audrey, it makes us look like trash. Dad is about to get a civic award, and you are out there shaking a tin cup. So you decided to cut off my income entirely? I asked. You decided that if I looked poor, the solution was to make me unemployed? Maybe people just do not like being guilted, Dylan said, a smirk touching the corner of his mouth. Maybe if you managed your own life, you would not have to embarrass us. I looked at that smirk. It was the same smirk he had when we were children and he broke my toys, only to tell our parents I had left them out. It was the smirk of a man who had never faced a consequence in 32 years. I felt the anger drain away, replaced by a cold, calculating stillness. Arguing with him was useless. He did not care about Lily. He did not care about me. He cared about the boat, and he cared about his ego. He was not a brother. He was an adversary. And you do not argue with an adversary. You dismantle them. I will take the post down. I said quietly. Good, Dylan said, turning back to the mechanic. Smart move. I turned and walked away. I was not retreating. I was reloading. I sat in my car and called Ellen Park. Ellen, I said, I need to know if you got the documents. I am looking at them right now. Ellen said. Her voice was grim. I have a friend in the underwriting department at a different bank who called in a favor. It is not the certified copy, but it is the draft packet scanned into the system. What does it say? It lists you as co-borrower, Ellen said. And Audrey? It lists your income as $150,000. I gasped. I make 65. They inflated your income to qualify for the loan. Ellen said, that is bank fraud, federal bank fraud. And right here, on page 4, under borrower intent, there is a check mark next to joint application. There is no signature yet. That is why the loan is still pending. But the intent to use your profile is documented. Can I use it? I asked. You can use it to blow the whole thing up. Ellen said, if you show this to the bank manager, they will flag the application for fraud immediately. The loan will die. And my father? If the bank presses charges, he could face fines, maybe worse, but usually, they just blacklist the client and kill the deal. Send it to me. I said. I waited in the car until the email dinged. I opened the PDF. There it was. Loan application. 30 feet Grady White. Primary. Dylan Kelly. Co-borrower. Audrey Kelly. And the income. $150,000. My father had done this. Dylan was not smart enough to know how to structure debt-to-income ratios. Dad had coached him. Dad had looked at my life, my struggle, my budget, my sick child, and seen nothing but a credit score to be harvested. I needed to end this. Today, I texted my father, meet me at Seabrook Diner. Noon. I have the hospital update. He replied instantly, I am busy. Come to the house tonight. No. I typed, Seabrook Diner. Noon. Or I go to the police station at 12:30 with the file Ellen Park just sent me. He did not reply. I drove to the diner. Seabrook Diner was neutral ground. It was loud, smelling of bacon grease and burnt coffee, filled with fishermen and tourists. It was public. He could not yell at me here. He could not block the door. I took a booth in the back. I ordered a coffee. I placed my phone on the table. Face down, I opened the voice recorder app. I waited. At 12:10, the door opened. Don Kelly walked in. He looked tired. His usually immaculate silver hair was a little mussed, and his tie was crooked. He scanned the room, saw me, and marched over. He did not take off his coat. He slid into the booth opposite me. You are playing a dangerous game. Audrey, he said, his voice a low growl. Threatening your own father with police? I am not playing. Dad, I said. I slid the printout of the loan application across the Formica table. I know about the application. I said, I know you inflated my income. I know you listed me as a co-borrower without asking. He glanced at the paper, then waved a hand dismissively. It is a draft. It means nothing. It was just to see what the rates would look like. It is fraud. Dad, I said, you tried to trick the bank, and you did it knowing that a hard inquiry would ruin my chance to get the bridge loan for Lily. Lily, 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 he snapped. He hit the table with his hand, making the silverware jump. Is that all you think about? We are trying to build a future for this family. This boat deal is the start of a fleet. It is generational wealth. It is bigger than one procedure. I stared at him. The noise of the diner faded away. Bigger than one procedure. He had said it. He had finally said the quiet part out loud. So the boat is more important than her walking without pain? I asked. She can walk, he hissed. She has a limp. So what? Lots of people have limps. You are obsessing over this surgery because you want to be the perfect mother. You are selfish. Audrey, you are willing to tank your brother's career and my reputation just to get what you want right now. You are ungrateful. After everything we gave you, I looked at him. I looked at the man who had taught me to ride a bike, the man who had walked me down the aisle. He was a stranger. He was a man who loved his image more than his blood. I picked up my phone. I turned it over. The red numbers on the screen were counting up. 4:12. I am recording this conversation. Dad, I said clearly. His face went slack. The color drained from his cheeks. What? I am recording this. I repeated. Under Massachusetts law, I am informing you that our interaction is being documented. He looked at the phone. He looked at me. And in that second, the transformation happened. The sneer vanished. The anger evaporated. He slumped his shoulders, putting on the face of the weary, misunderstood patriarch. Audrey, sweetheart, he said, his voice suddenly thick with manufactured emotion. Why would you do that? We are just having a family discussion. I am just trying to explain that we love you. We want to help Lily. We are in a tight spot with liquidity right now. It was a performance, a masterful, instant pivot for the imaginary jury. Save it, I said. I have the bigger than one procedure comment on tape. I have the admission that the loan application was to see the rates. I have enough. I stood up. Here is what is going to happen, I said. Looking down at him, you are going to withdraw that loan application today. You are going to email the bank manager and state that my name was added in error. You are going to copy me on that email. And if I do not? He asked, his eyes hard, even as his voice remained soft. Then I send this recording to the Giving Circle Board. I said, and I send the loan application to the Fraud Division. And you will not get your award next week. You will get a subpoena. He stared at me. Hate radiated from him like heat from a pavement. You would not. He whispered, try me. I said. I threw a $5 bill on the table for the coffee I had not touched. You have until 5 o'clock. Dad, I walked out of the diner. My legs were shaking so hard, I felt like I was walking on stilts. I made it to my car, got in, and locked the doors. I let out a scream, a short, sharp sound that scraped my throat. Then I breathed. I checked my phone. A voicemail from Mara at the hospital. Ms. Kelly, this is Mara. I have some good news. Based on the documentation you provided regarding the income discrepancy and the pending fraud investigation, Ellen sent over a preliminary note. The committee has approved you for the Hardship Assistance Program. It covers 40% of the gap. 40%. I did the math in my head. Total gap, $5,400. Hardship covers, $2,160. Remaining, $3,240. My personal loan was for $3,000. Kara's fundraiser was at $1,200. I had enough. I had enough money. I started the car. I was crying. But they were different tears now. They were the tears of a soldier who had survived the shelling. I drove back to work. I went straight to Linda's office in HR. I have removed the fundraiser link. I told her. And I am filing a harassment complaint against the user who tagged the company. It was a targeted attack by an estranged family member. Linda looked at me. She saw the steel in my spine. Okay, Audrey, she said, if the post is down, we can close the file. But keep your personal life offline. I went to my desk. I worked for 4 hours. I was efficient. I was cold. At 5 o'clock, my phone pinged. An email from Don Kelly. CC, Audrey Kelly. Harbor Point Community Bank. Subject: Loan application number 44,920 withdrawal. Please withdraw the pending application immediately. There were errors in the co-borrower data. We will not be proceeding at this time. He had folded. He cared about his award more than the boat. I knew he would. I forwarded the email to Ellen Park. File it. I typed, keep it for the next time. I drove home. The apartment was warm. Lily was sitting on the floor, trying to put a shoe on her Barbie. Her leg was stuck out at that awkward angle, the one that broke my heart every day. Mommy? She asked, looking up. I sat down on the floor next to her. I pulled her into my lap. Hey, Bug. I said, did you do the paperwork? She asked. I smoothed her hair. Yes. Baby, I did the paperwork. The doctors are ready for you. December 12th. She went still. Really? Really. She leaned her head against my chest. I could feel her small heart beating against mine. Mommy? She whispered. Yeah? Will you be there? When I wake up? I thought about the bridge I had burned. I thought about the family dinners I would never attend again. I thought about the debt I would be paying off for 3 years. I tightened my arms around her. I will be right there, I said. I will be holding your hand before you go to sleep, and I will be holding it when you open your eyes. You are not doing this alone. She exhaled, a long, shuddering sigh of relief. Okay, she said. I looked out the window at the dark street. I had lost my parents. I had lost my brother. I had lost the illusion of being a good daughter, but I had saved my child. And as I sat there on the floor, holding the only thing that mattered, I realized something. I did not want revenge. Revenge was for people who had nothing to lose. I had everything to lose, and I had just built a fortress to protect it. But the war was not over. I knew my father. I knew Dylan. They would not take a loss like this quietly. The withdrawal email was a retreat, not a surrender. I kissed the top of Lily's head. Let them come. I thought. I was ready. Friday arrived not with a bang, but with the quiet, satisfying click of a mouse button. I sat at my kitchen table at 7 o'clock in the morning, a mug of black coffee steaming beside my laptop. The screen displayed the Harbor Point General Hospital patient portal. The balance due field blinked at me, a demanding red cursor. I had the funds. It was a patchwork quilt of money, stitched together from sources that had nothing to do with my last name and everything to do with my own grit. The personal loan had cleared, depositing $3,000 into my checking account minus the origination fee. Kara's fundraiser had closed out at $1,450, money from neighbors who knew me as the woman who returned their trash cans on windy days, not as Don Kelly's daughter, and the hospital's hardship program had shaved off the top layer of the debt. I typed in the routing number. I typed in the account number. I entered the amount. Submit payment. The screen refreshed. A green check mark appeared. Transaction successful. Your surgery slot for December 12th is confirmed. I stared at the screen. I did not cry. I did not cheer. I simply exhaled. A long, shuddering breath that felt like I was expelling a week's worth of poison from my lungs. It was done. Lily was going to get her hip fixed, and I had done it without begging my father, without defrauding a bank, and without compromising my soul. I felt a fragile relief, like standing on a bridge made of glass. It was holding, but I could see the drop beneath me. I was broke. I was in debt to a predatory lender. I had alienated my family, but the bridge held. I closed the laptop and went to wake my daughter. 2 hours later, while I was at work, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. Can you talk? It is important. I ignored it. I had a meeting with the logistics team. An hour later, another text, this time from my father. We need to settle this. Marla and I are willing to transfer $2,000 to your account today to help with the bills. We just need you to sign a document agreeing to cease all legal inquiries regarding the bank matter, and we would appreciate a post on social media thanking us for the support. It looks bad if you are silent. Audrey. I stared at the phone in the break room. $2,000, a fraction of what they had promised 6 months ago. And the strings attached were not strings. They were chains. They wanted me to sell my silence for $2,000. They wanted me to publicly curate their image as benevolent grandparents, while they privately scrambled to cover up a felony fraud attempt. If I took the money, I became an accomplice. If I posted that thank you note, I validated their narrative. Thanks to my wonderful parents for making this possible. It would be a lie that cemented their status and erased my struggle. I typed a reply. My fingers were steady. No, the surgery is paid for. The legal inquiries regarding the unauthorized credit check will continue until I have written confirmation from the bank that my name is fully disassociated from the loan. Do not offer me money again. I blocked the number for the rest of the workday. I could not afford the distraction. That afternoon, I went back to Ellen Park's office. Ellen looked at the email printout of my father's withdrawal of the loan application. She nodded, satisfied, but not smiling. This is good, she said. It stops the immediate bleeding. But Audrey, A withdrawal is not an exoneration. It just means they pulled the application. It does not erase the fact that they tried to use your identity, and it does not prevent them from trying again with a different lender who might be less diligent. What do? I asked. We file a preventive identity protection action. Ellen said, it is an administrative lockout. We place a permanent freeze on your credit files with all 3 bureaus, which you have already started. But we also send formal cease and desist notices to all local lending institutions in Harbor Point. We put them on notice that any application bearing your name requires in-person verification with a notary. It felt extreme. It felt like I was treating my family like a cartel. Do it, I said. Ellen drafted the letters. I signed them. I am sending these today. She said, and Audrey, you need to be prepared for the fallout. Men like your father do not like losing control of their assets. And he views you as an asset. I drove home feeling heavier, yet armored. I was building a wall, brick by brick, when I got to my apartment complex. Kara was waiting for me by the mailboxes. She was holding a glossy piece of cardstock. You need to see this, she said. She did not say hello. She just shoved the paper at me. I took it. It was a flyer. The Harbor Point Giving Circle invites you to the annual Autumn Gala. Honoring community leadership, this year's recipient, Donald Kelly, for his tireless dedication to local philanthropy and maritime preservation. I stared at the photo of my father. He was smiling, looking tan and benevolent, wearing a blue blazer. The date was tonight. The venue was the Harbor Point Yacht Club. Kara pointed to the bottom of the flyer. Look at the sponsor list. I looked. Silver sponsor. Atlantic Charter Ventures. That was Dylan's company. The company that did not exist yet. The company that needed the boat. It clicked. The pieces of the puzzle slammed together with a sickening thud. The urgency. The desperation for the boat loan. The bigger-than-one procedure comment. My father was receiving an award for maritime preservation. To legitimize that award, to look the part of the wealthy benefactor, he needed his son to launch a maritime business. The boat was not just a boat, it was a prop. It was the set dressing for the play my father was starring in. And the partner Dylan had mentioned? The investor? He was probably someone from this giving circle, someone my father was trying to impress. He needed the boat to secure the investor. He needed the investor to secure the award. He needed the award to feed his ego. And he had been willing to sacrifice Lily's ability to walk to get it. I am going, I said. Audrey, no, Kara said, grabbing my arm. You are not going to storm in there. It is ticketed. It is fancy. You will just look crazy. I am not going to storm in, I said. I still have my membership card from when I was on their junior board 5 years ago. I am just going to watch. I need to understand what I'm up against. I went upstairs and dug through the back of my closet. I found a black cocktail dress I had worn to a wedding 3 years ago. It was simple, unmemorable, perfect for a ghost. I put on my heels. I put on lipstick. I told the babysitter I would be back in 2 hours. I drove to the yacht club. The parking lot was full of Range Rovers and Teslas. I parked my 10-year-old sedan between 2 pristine Mercedes SUVs. I walked past the valet, flashing my old membership card at the check-in girl. She was young, probably a college student hired for the night. She barely glanced at the expiration date. Enjoy the evening, she said. I walked into the ballroom. It was a world I had grown up in, a world of soft lighting, clinking crystal, and the murmur of polite, wealthy conversation. It smelled of expensive perfume and shrimp cocktail. I stood near a pillar in the back, in the shadows. I saw them immediately. My father was near the stage, holding a scotch. He was holding court. He looked magnificent. I had to admit, he had that way of leaning in when someone spoke, making them feel like the most important person in the room. My mother was beside him, wearing a silver gown, smiling until her face must have hurt. And Dylan was by the bar, talking to 2 men. One was a man in a windbreaker, a boat dealer I recognized from town. The other was a man in a sharp gray suit, older, with the predatory stillness of serious money. I moved closer. weaving through the crowd, grabbing a glass of sparkling water from a passing tray to blend in. I needed to hear them. I positioned myself behind a large floral arrangement, just a few feet away from Dylan's group. "The hull is being secured this week," Dylan was saying. His voice was confident, projecting success. "We are looking at a soft launch in April. The tourism numbers are projecting a 15% increase." The man in the gray suit nodded. "And your father mentioned the family is fully leveraged in this?" "I like to see skin in the game. It shows commitment." "Oh, absolutely," Dylan said. He took a sip of his drink. "We are all in. My sister, Audrey, she is in compliance. She is handling the back office structure. We are a tight unit." I felt the blood drain from my face. He was using me. Even after I had threatened them, even after the cease and desist, he was standing there, selling my name to an investor. "Audrey is handling the back office structure." He was using my reliability, my job title, my boring, rule-following reputation to validate his risky scheme. The man in the suit smiled. "Good. I like family operations. They are stable." I wanted to scream. I wanted to step out from behind the flowers and shout, "I am not in. I am suing them." But I did not, because Ellen Park's voice was in my head. Document everything. I took out my phone. I held it low, near my waist. I snapped a photo of Dylan with the investor. I snapped a photo of the sponsor board listing Atlantic Charter Ventures. "Audrey?" I froze. I turned slowly. Standing there was Nina Reddick. She was a woman who had been on the PTA with my mother for 20 years. She was wealthy, kind in a vague way, and completely disconnected from the reality of how normal people lived. She was wearing pearls the size of grapes. "Nina," I said, forcing a smile. "I did not know you were coming," she exclaimed, touching my arm. "I just saw Don. He is beaming. He is so proud of this award." "He certainly is," I said. "You know, he talks about you all the time," Nina said. She lowered her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "He was telling the board just last week about his pledge, the $10,000 he committed to the Giving Circle's scholarship fund in your name. It was such a touching gesture." He said, "My daughter Audrey has always valued education, and we want to honor that." The room seemed to tilt. $10,000. He had pledged $10,000 to a scholarship fund in my name. He had pledged $10,000 to strangers to buy social clout, using my name as the vehicle for his benevolence. Meanwhile, he had told me he did not have $5,000 for his granddaughter's surgery. He had liquidity. He had the money. He just chose to spend it on a plaque instead of a hip joint. "Oh," I said. My voice sounded far away. "That was generous of him. It really was." Nina gushed. "He is such a pillar. Audrey, you are so lucky to have that kind of support system." I felt sick, physically sick. The discrepancy was not just cruel, it was pathological. He was not just hoarding money, he was spending it to purchase the reputation of a good father, specifically by using the daughter he was neglecting. He was stripping the copper wiring out of my house to buy a billboard saying what a great architect he was. "I have to go." "Nina," I said, "I am not feeling well." "Oh, dear. Do you want some water?" "No," I said, "I just need air." I turned and walked away. I walked fast. I passed my father. He was laughing at something a tall man was saying. He did not see me. He was too busy being the man of the hour. I walked out of the ballroom, past the check-in desk, and out into the cold night air. I sat in my car and gripped the steering wheel until my hands hurt. The boat was a ladder. The pledge was a costume. My family was a stage set. I drove home in silence. The radio was off. The windows were up. I walked into my apartment. The babysitter was watching TV. I paid her and sent her home. I checked on Lily. She was sleeping, her arm thrown over her head, Bun tucked under her chin. I went to the kitchen table. I opened my laptop. I opened a new document. I titled it, Timeline of Events. I started typing. I did not use emotion. I used facts. May 15th. Don Kelly pledges $5,000 for Lily Kelly's surgery. Verbal agreement witnessed by Marla Kelly. October 20th. Pre-op appointment confirms surgery necessity and deadline. November 10th. Don Kelly rescinds financial support, citing funds needed for Dylan Kelly's boat purchase. November 12th. Dylan Kelly requests access to Audrey Kelly's financial profile for reference. Request denied. November 15th. Unauthorized hard credit inquiry appears on Audrey Kelly's credit report from Harbor Point Community Bank. November 16th. Discovery of loan application number 44920 listing Audrey Kelly as co-borrower with falsified income of $150,000. November 17th. Don Kelly admits to knowledge of application in recorded conversation at Seabrook Diner. November 18th. Withdrawal of loan application following threat of legal action. November 19th. Audrey Kelly observes Dylan Kelly soliciting investment based on false claims of Audrey Kelly's business involvement. November 19th. Nina Reddick confirms Don Kelly pledged $10,000 to Harbor Point Giving Circle in Audrey Kelly's name. I printed it out. It was 2 pages long. It was a dossier of betrayal. I put it in a red folder. I labeled it Evidence. I sat there for a long time, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. I was not just fighting for a surgery anymore. I was fighting to reclaim my name. They had stolen it. They were wearing my identity like a costume to fool the world. My phone buzzed on the table. It was a voicemail. From Dawn. I debated deleting it without listening, but I needed to know the enemy's state of mind. I pressed play. The background noise was loud. Music. Laughter. He was still at the party. Audrey. His voice boomed, slightly slurred. We missed you tonight. Nina said she saw you. Why did you run off? He paused. The sound of clinking glasses filled the silence. Look, honey, I know you are stressed, but we pulled the application. We did what you asked. Now you need to do your part. Stop with the letters to the banks. Stop talking to that lawyer. His voice dropped. The joviality vanished, replaced by a cold, hard edge. You are risking a lot. Audrey, people talk. If you drag this out, if you make a scene, you are going to regret it. Don't embarrass this family. We are all you have. The message ended. We are all you have. It was the ultimate threat of the abuser. Without us, you are nothing. I looked at the red folder. I looked at the payment confirmation for the surgery. I looked at the dark hallway leading to my daughter's room. He was wrong. I had Lily. I had Kara. I had Ellen. I had a job. And I had the truth. I deleted the voicemail. I stood up and went to Lily's room. I pulled her small suitcase out from under the bed. It was pink, with wheels that lit up when they rolled. I opened it. I packed her pajamas. I packed her favorite robe. I packed the special socks with the grips on the bottom. I packed Bun Bun's travel blanket. I packed my own bag, comfortable pants, a book I would not read, a charger. Tomorrow was the day. Tomorrow. They would cut my daughter open and put her back together. And while they did that, I would be sitting in the waiting room, guarding her life with the ferocity of a woman who finally knew exactly who the wolves were. My father thought the story ended because he had withdrawn one application. He thought he could bully me back into line with a voicemail and a vague threat about family. He had no idea. I zipped the suitcase shut. The sound was like a zipper closing on a body bag. Let them have their party. Let them have their awards and their fake pledges and their investors in gray suits. I had the morning, and when the sun came up, I would be the one standing. The waiting room of Harbor Point General Hospital was a purgatory upholstered in vinyl. The air smelled of antiseptic and stale coffee. A scent that would forever remind me of the longest 6 hours of my life. I sat in a corner chair, staring at the digital clock on the wall. The red numbers flipped over with agonizing slowness. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11. I was not alone. Kara was there, armed with a tote bag full of snacks I could not eat and magazines I could not read. Mrs. Gable, the crossing guard who had donated $50 to the fundraiser, had stopped by earlier to drop off a prayer shawl. Even my boss, Mr. Henderson, had sent a text. "Take the time. We have the logs covered. My family was not there. There were empty chairs where my mother and father should have been. There was a space by the window where my brother should have been pacing. Their absence was a physical thing, a cold draft in the room." But strangely, as the hours ticked by, the coldness turned into clarity. I did not need them. I had built a new family out of neighbors, coworkers, and a fierce, terrifying love for my daughter. I had paid the deposit. I had signed the consent forms. I had carried the weight. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Dr. Evans walked through the double doors. He looked tired, his surgical cap pulled low, but his eyes were bright. "Audrey," he said. I stood up. My knees felt like water. "She is doing great," he said, smiling. "The osteotomy went perfectly. The hardware is seated exactly where we wanted it. We are going to see a massive improvement in her range of motion. She is in recovery now." I let out a sound that was half sob, half laugh. Kara grabbed me in a hug that squeezed the breath out of me. "She is okay," I whispered into Kara's shoulder. "She is okay." We walked down the hallway to the recovery room. I saw Lily lying in the bed, looking small and pale amidst the beep and hum of the monitors. Her leg was elevated, wrapped in thick white bandages. I sat beside her. I took her hand. It was warm. "Mommy?" she croaked, her eyes fluttering open. "I am here. Bug," I said. "I am right here." "Did you stay?" she asked, her voice slurring from the anesthesia. "I never left. I promised. And I meant it. I was not going anywhere." The next 3 days were a blur of pain management, physical therapy consultations, and sleeping in a chair that folded out into a torture device. I was exhausted, but I was happy. Every time Lily moved her leg, every time she grimaced but then smiled, because the deep, grinding bone pain was gone. I felt a victory. On the 3rd day, I went home to shower and change while Kara sat with Lily. I walked into my apartment, craving nothing more than hot water and 5 minutes of silence. There was a notification slip in my mailbox. Certified mail. Attempted delivery. I frowned. I had already received the confirmation of the loan withdrawal from my father. What was this? I drove to the post office before going upstairs. I signed for the envelope. It was from Harbor Point Community Bank. I opened it in the parking lot. Notice of guarantor verification status. Dear Ms. Kelly, this letter is to inform you that while the primary application number 44,920 has been withdrawn by the initiator, your profile remains linked to the collateral assessment file as a verified secondary asset for a period of 90 days. Per standard underwriting retention policies, should the application be reactivated or a new application submitted within this window, your income verification documents may be used without resubmission. I stared at the paper. They had withdrawn the specific application, but they had not scrubbed my file. My income, my credit score, my identity, it was all still sitting in the bank's system, linked to the boat. It was a dormant virus, waiting to be reactivated, and the line about income verification documents, I had never submitted income documents. If the bank had them, it meant my father or Dylan had forged them. They had created fake pay stubs or tax returns to support the lie that I made $150,000. I felt the blood pound in my ears. This was not over. My father's email had been a stalling tactic. He had pulled back to make me stop threatening him. But he had left the door unlocked so he could walk back in later. He was banking on my silence. He was banking on the fact that I was tired, that I was a single mother with a recovering child, and that I would not have the energy to fight a war on 2 fronts. He was wrong. I drove home. I showered. I put on my navy blazer. I took the red folder from my desk, the one labeled evidence. I added the new letter from the bank. I was done keeping the peace. Peace was just a word for letting them win. I drove to the offices of the Harbor Point Giving Circle. They were located in a renovated historic house downtown. all polished brass and tasteful landscaping. I walked to the reception desk. "I need to speak to the board president." I said, "My name is Audrey Kelly. It concerns the honoree for the autumn gala." The receptionist looked at my blazer, my determined face, and the red folder. "One moment," she said. 5 minutes later, I was sitting in a conference room with Nina Reddick and 2 other board members. They looked confused. They knew me as Don's daughter. They expected a thank you note or a coordination question about the ceremony. I placed the folder on the mahogany table. "I am not here to cause a scene," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "I am here because I believe this organization values integrity. You are planning to honor my father, Donald Kelly, for his community leadership and philanthropy." Nina smiled nervously. "Yes, Audrey, we are so excited." I opened the folder. "I need you to review these documents," I said. I laid them out one by one. The timeline of the missing surgery funds, the copy of the text messages where he refused to pay, the credit report showing the unauthorized inquiry, the email admitting the withdrawal of the fraudulent loan, the letter from the bank confirming falsified income documents were on file, and finally, the note about the $10,000 pledge made in my name. "This pledge," I said, pointing to the last document. "My father told you he pledged $10,000 in my name to honor my values. The reality is that he used that pledge to buy social capital while simultaneously refusing to release $5,000 he had promised for his granddaughter's medical care. He did not have the funds for the surgery because he was leveraging his liquidity to secure a boat loan, for which he stole my identity to qualify." The room was dead silent. The only sound was the ticking of a grandfather clock in the corner. Nina picked up the bank letter. Her hands were shaking slightly. "Audrey," she whispered, "these are serious accusations." "They are not accusations," I said. "They are facts. Here are the dates. Here are the file numbers. You can verify them." I stood up. "I am not asking you to do anything specific," I said. "I am simply informing you that if you proceed with honoring him as a pillar of the community, you are endorsing a man who commits financial fraud against his own children to maintain his image." I walked out. I did not look back. I went back to the hospital. I sat with Lily. We watched cartoons. I felt lighter than I had in years. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was Don. I picked it up. "You ungrateful, selfish little witch," he hissed. There was no charm in his voice now, no sweetheart. Just pure, unadulterated rage. "Hello, Dad," I said. "Nina just called me." He shouted, "They are pausing the award. They are launching an internal ethics review. Do you have any idea what you have done? You have humiliated me. You have destroyed 40 years of work." I told the truth. I said, "You used your child as a shield." He screamed, "You hid behind that surgery to attack me." "No," I said. "I am using my voice. You used Lily as collateral. You used my name as a prop. I am just taking my name back. I am cutting you off." He spat. "You are dead to us. Do not expect a dime. Do not expect to be welcome in this house. I already cut myself off." "Dad," I said, "and I paid for the surgery. I do not need your dimes." I hung up. I blocked his number. That evening, I went to the hospital cafeteria to get a tea. When I walked out to the parking lot to get some fresh air, a truck swerved into the spot next to me. It was Dylan. He jumped out. He looked disheveled. His eyes were wild. "You ruined it," he said, marching toward me. "The investor pulled out. The bank called. The deal is dead. The boat is gone." "Good," I said. "You could not afford it." "I could have afforded it," he yelled, slamming his hand against the hood of my car. "We had a plan. We were going to refinance in 6 months. You just had to hold the line." "Hold the line?" I asked, stepping away from him. "Dylan, I was the line. You were hanging me out to dry." He laughed. A bitter, ugly sound. "You think you are so righteous, Miss Perfect. You think you are better than us? You are nothing without the family name. You are just a single mom in a crappy apartment. And you are a 32-year-old man who needs his daddy to forge documents so he can buy a toy. I said. He flinched. That is the pattern. Dylan, I said, it has always been the pattern. Your dreams always require someone else's stability. You needed mom to clean up your grades. You needed dad to buy your jobs. And you needed me to buy your boat. I am not your stabilizer anymore. He stared at me. His fists clenched. For a second, I thought he might hit me. But he did not. He was a bully, and bullies are cowards. Go to hell. Audrey, he muttered. He got back in his truck and peeled out of the lot. I watched him go. I did not feel angry. I felt pity. He was a man-child who had never been allowed to grow up because he had never been allowed to fail. I had just given him his first real failure. Maybe, one day, he would thank me. Probably not. The next day, Marla came to the hospital. I was in the hallway, talking to the physical therapist about Lily's walker. I saw my mother come out of the elevator. She was wearing sunglasses indoors. She looked smaller, shrunken. Audrey, she said. I crossed my arms. Mom. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Here, she said, holding it out. It is a cashier's check. $5,000. From my personal account. Dad does not know. I looked at the envelope. Take it, she whispered. Please, just take it and call Nina. Tell her it was a misunderstanding. Tell her you were emotional. Fix this. Audrey, we can be a family again. I looked at the money. It was exactly what I had prayed for 2 weeks ago. It was the solution to my debt. It was the easy way out. But I saw the hook inside the bait. If I took the money, I was bought. If I took the money, I had to recant. I had to say I was crazy, emotional, hysterical. I had to restore their image and destroy my own credibility. I pushed her hand away. No, I said, Audrey, please, you have debt. I have debt. I said, but I own it. It is mine. I do not want your money. Mom, I continued, I want one thing, and if you give it to me, I will never speak to the giving circle again. What? She asked. What do you want? I want a written document, signed by you and Dad and notarized, stating that you have no financial interest in my life, that you will never use my name for credit again, and that I am fully removed from the family trust and all its liabilities. But that means you get nothing, she said. The inheritance. I do not want the inheritance, I said. I want freedom. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face behind the dark glasses. You have become so hard, she said. I had to be. I said, you made me soft so you could bend me. I had to harden to survive you. She left the check on the bench. I did not pick it up. A janitor swept it away an hour later. 2 days later. Ellen Park called me. I have the document. She said, they signed it. They are terrified you are going to go to the police. They formally disclaimed any connection to your finances. We also filed the permanent credit freeze and the cease and desist. You are a fortress. Audrey, thank you. Ellen, I said, there was one last thing to do. Lily was discharged on a Tuesday. The sky was a brilliant, biting blue. I settled her into the back seat of the car, propping her leg up on pillows. Where are we going? She asked. Home? We have one stop, I said. I drove to my parents' house. I parked on the street. I did not pull into the driveway. I will be right back. I told Lily. I left the car running. The heat blasting. I walked up the brick path. I carried a wooden box in my hands. It was a keepsake box my father had given me when I turned 18. It contained savings bonds that had long since matured and been spent on college. But it also contained the family contract, a symbolic paper we had all signed about loyalty and legacy. It was the box he always pointed to when he wanted to manipulate me. Remember the box. Audrey, remember who you are. I rang the bell. Don opened the door. He looked 10 years older. His eyes were red-rimmed. He was wearing a bathrobe at 2 p.m. He blocked the doorway. What do you want? He grunted. I held out the box. I'm returning this. I said. He looked at it. He sneered. Oh, the family trust. He said. You are giving back the symbol of our love? You think that hurts me? You are walking away from a legacy. Audrey, you are walking away from protection. You think you can make it out there alone? You are weak. You always needed us to prop you up. I looked him in the eye. I thought about the nights I sat up auditing logs. I thought about the days I spent navigating the hospital bureaucracy. I thought about the spreadsheets, the fundraisers, the lawyer, the sheer force of will it took to get my daughter to that operating room. I was not weak. I was the strongest person on this porch. I did not need you to prop me up. Dad, I said. I shoved the box into his chest. He had to grab it to keep it from falling. You only had authority because I kept handing it to you. I said. I turned around. I walked down the steps. You will be back, he shouted after me. When the bills pile up, you will be back begging. I kept walking. I got into my car. I looked at my daughter in the rearview mirror. Is everything okay? Mommy? She asked. I put the car in drive. I looked at the house one last time. The big, impressive colonial with the rot inside the walls. Everything is perfect. Lily, I said. I drove away. We went home to our small apartment. It was cramped. It was rented. The furniture was secondhand. But the air inside was clean. That night, after I tucked Lily in, I sat on the balcony wrapped in a blanket. I looked at the moon. I had a repayment plan that would take me 3 years. I had a credit score that was frozen solid. I had parents who would tell everyone I was crazy. But inside the bedroom, my daughter was sleeping without pain. And inside my chest, my heart was beating a steady, quiet rhythm. Mine, mine, mine. I took a sip of cheap wine and smiled. It was the best vintage I had ever tasted. Thank you for listening to Audrey's story. It is a journey that reminds us that sometimes the hardest boundaries we have to set are with the people who raised us. I would love to hear from you. Where are you listening from today? Have you ever had to stand up to family to protect your peace? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to Revenge Stories. We have many more tales of justice, resilience, and turning the tables coming your way. Until next time, keep your head high and your boundaries strong.